Hi, I'm Julie Schrum, and this is my case study on internet use violation. What we know about this case is that Ms. Walker is not liked by many of the parents and students. We know this because they have been calling the principal, Dr. Forbes, or meeting with him to talk about her. She has too high of expectations. The course curriculum is too strenuous for the kids, and she is teaching in a very affluent community where the kids are very competitive for uh, to be valedictorian or salutatorian. Dr. Forbes is a administrator who has a great reputation, and he has been noted for Principal of the Year and is established and respected. So he should know the staff and he should know the families. Um, we also know that the message have been posted on a website, and Mrs. Walker was made aware of these messages, these derogatory messages on this website via an email. So the person obviously knew her email. So it can't be a complete stranger, I wouldn't think. The website contains sexual innuendo, criticism of her teaching, vulgar and curse words, as well as the statement, "Who wants Miss Walker to disappear?" Uh, the language on the website can be interpreted in different ways. Ms. Walker interpreted it as a threat to her life, while Dr. Forbes feels it was a prank. I personally took it as they wanted her to be fired. They wanted her to disappear from the school district. Dr. Forbes and Ms. Walker are going to meet with a student that Ms. Walker feels does not like her in the morning. Um, The problem with this that I see is that there's several students who don't like her, that have complained about her. Um, and we've got to be careful we don't say something that could be derogatory towards his uh, personal reputation. What we don't know is his discipline record. Has he been in trouble in the past? If so, what did he do? Is he known as being a bully? And if he is it verbal or is it physical or is it both? And is Randy good with technology? Because I'm guessing a person who set up a website is pretty good with technology and probably knows how to cover his tracks. Is Randy up to that task? We also don't know about Randy's family. Are they going to be a family that's supportive of fair consequences, disciplinary action, or are they going to try to cover this up and fight the school on it because they want him to have a pristine record for scholarship applications and college applications? And what type of professionals are they? Do they have a background in law? Are they going to be available to come meet at a short notice? The last thing we don't know is the email and website traceable? And if so, the director of technology would be my first call. I would follow his lead on other suggestions for finding out where these originated and asking him to help me direct my inquiry into who's responsible for the website. I would also like to know just basic information, when and where, time and date of the email being sent, and time and date that the website was created and updated, and how many people have visited it, and who has visited it. That type of basic information will let me know who's aware of it and who isn't aware of it if the tech director is capable of gathering that. I also don't know the district's policy on internet use or internet violation. And so I would need to know that. Are there certain things that have to be set in motion automatically and right away? Do I need to gather information first? What type of consequences are we talking about? Is this a zero tolerance policy? Do police need to be called right away? As I see it, the biggest problem is not knowing who's at fault. That makes it tricky. You don't want to be accusing people who are innocent. And so that's a very sensitive issue to me, is figuring out who's at fault for this. And I would want the parents of anybody that I suspect to be involved in a serious way to be involved in the process from the beginning. So my action plan would be to print out that email and website as Mr. Forbes says in the case study. I would do that as well. It gives you a hard copy of it. If students catch wind and take the website down, you still have hard copy proof that this website existed. The director of technology would be the first person I would call. I would want him to try to find out where it originated from and by whom and when. I would also talk with Miss Walker, find out if anything else happened over the night from when I talked to her last. If the tech director the next day has figured something out overnight as to who it is or where it came from, that would focus my search and make this a whole lot easier. If he doesn't know the origin of the website, then I would have to talk with Randy as a starting point. But I would also be calling in his friends and lots of different students from lots of different social groups in the school, try to get a handle on each group's feeling for Miss Walker. Is it a widespread dislike? Is it pretty specific to certain groups? I would want to get a handle on that. I would also call local law enforcement. Are they having trouble with malicious websites or cyberbullying in any form lately? And if they are, what information do they have about it? Do they have a lead as to who's doing it and who's responsible for it or not? I would also call parents once I found out who the creator of the website was. Strategies. As an administrator, I want to be sure I treat everybody with fairness. Mrs. Walker, or Miss Walker, excuse me, has a right to be upset and scared. The students also have a right to be presumed innocent until proven guilty. And so I'm going to have kind of a tightrope to walk here, balancing the rights on both sides of this. Once the responsible party is found, then it becomes much simpler. That's why I think that's the biggest problem. My starting point would be the director of technology. I would want concrete information as to who is responsible when and where. I would also use his advice as to how I find this out and different places to go in search of information. As an administrator, I can talk to students about suspected problems. I have no problem with that. I understand that. So I would do that with a whole group of kids from different areas of the school, different grade levels, different social groups, etc. When I'm talking to them, I would talk to them. I'd listen. I'd give them a chance to tell me what they know, their side of things. I would not threaten. I would not yell. I would not imply any guilt. When I called the parents, I would ask them questions that the student has told me, specifically Randy, if he happens to be the one that is responsible, and see if Randy's story checks out as far as time and place where he was. Would he have had the opportunity to do these things or not, according to the parent? Allowing parents to be involved in the process, my hope would be that in doing so, they would understand why I think their child was involved in this situation and why I chose the consequences I did. I want them to be aware of the district's policy and my reason for either being more severe or less severe, depending on intention and level of malice involved. I would promote success in all students through this process by modeling that I am honest, that I am transparent, and I am sincere in my desire to treat everybody equitably and fairly. I want to be trusted. I want my school to be perceived as a safe place to learn, and I want students to understand that the rules will be upheld. People will be held accountable for what they do. I will demonstrate that students can trust me because I'll listen to them. I won't yell. I won't point blame. I won't accuse. I'll listen and I'll use logic to solve the problem. I've always had high expectations for myself and for my students, and I would in this case as well. And for kids to reach their highest potential of learning, they need to feel like their learning environment is safe, that they can come here and be free from ridicule. But on the other hand, Ms. Walker needs to know she can come here and be safe to teach, that she can do her job and not have to worry about students threatening her. So there again is that balance between what the staff's safety is and what the student's safety is. And that has to be figured out so that trust and respect can be built and the culture of collaboration and learning can be reestablished. Research in developmental psychology tells us that children do push limits and test rules so that they can get a sense of their boundaries, their morals, what's right, what's wrong. They need to know what's expected of them. They like to have expectations clearly stated. I also know that their frontal lobes aren't fully developed, and so rational thought, problem solving, thinking through something, inhibition control isn't fully developed yet. I would consider all of that when I am considering consequences as far as the student goes. Unresolved issues. As of right now, we still don't know who to hold responsible for this website. We don't know what their intent is, and that's huge too. If their intent was a prank and they just hadn't thought this through, that's a different level than truly trying to scare her and change her behavior through threats. Does the responsible party have a history of bullying, threats, violence? All of that would play into the consequences, which as of right now are unknown and unresolved. Until the other questions can be answered, you cannot decide on consequences. My first thought as I was going through this is my anxiety level was going up, because anytime you have a situation that could involve law enforcement and legal consequences for a child, that's serious. No child needs to walk away with a record if they're innocent, or if this was not an intentional act of malice. And so I want to be sure all my T's are crossed and my I's are dotted. I want to know the children that I refer to law enforcement deserve to be referred. And so I would be very careful in this case, making sure all my information is correct. My second thought is a personal thought, in that my son, my oldest son, was involved in an incident with our school where he was accused by one student of drinking alcohol, and the principal called the police went out there, they didn't find anybody. So this was never substantiated in any way, shape, or form. And I was called by the principal after he had talked to Drew and after the suspension had been given, and I always felt that was wrong. I always felt like I should have been there in the beginning to hear what had been said. And according to the principal, my son was hard to break, and those his words, and he made it sound like an inquisition. I always felt like I should have been there. I don't ever want a parent to think that I have done that to their child. I want them to be able to trust that I will be fair and I will be just in what I do, and I'm going to be transparent. I do not mind a parent hearing me speak to their children, because I'm not going to say anything I want to hide. My last thought, our third thought, is that once the incident is straightened out, we still need to deal with the real problem here, which is Miss Walker's teaching. The students are not happy with her teaching, and for whatever reason that may be, that needs to be resolved, or this issue is just going to keep bubbling under the surface, and students are going to show their dislike of her in many different ways. That does not build a climate or a culture of collaboration and trust and higher learning. So once the immediate issue was taken care of as to the website and who created it and why, I would then go back and speak to Ms. Walker about proactive measures that she has to take to rectify the situation that she has developed with the students. Integrity and ethical behavior, it's always needed, it's always demanded, and I will always hold myself responsible for all of it. I will show integrity, honesty, and strong moral principles in several ways. I'll listen and talk to kids rather than accuse and yell. I will show persistence in finding the perpetrator. People will be held accountable for the bad choices they make. I will not let that slide. I won't dislike them because of those choices, but they will have consequences for those choices. And finally, I'll act with fairness in deciding the consequences for the students in internet use violation. That's a very serious situation, because so much of our education today uses internet and Google and the World Wide Web, and I need to be able to trust my students and my teachers to use it responsibly. And if they can't, then they're going to have some changes made to their curriculum and their social interactions with other children. Thank you for listening.